I never thought I'd see the inside of a police interrogation room, let alone as the one giving the statement that would change everything. My name's Daniel Cross, and this all started on an ordinary Tuesday morning in Portland. I was walking to work, coffee in hand, when I noticed something strange near the old Bennett jewelry store. The place had been closed for years, but the door usually chained was slightly open. Now, I'm not the type who pokes around where I don't belong, but something in my gut told me to take a closer look. I stepped toward the door, glancing around to see if anyone else noticed. The street was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Inside, the air was stale and smelled faintly of dust and metal. Sunlight cut through the cracked windows, highlighting shelves long since emptied. That's when I saw them, two men in dark hoodies at the back of the store, hunched over a large, open duffel bag. One of them looked up, and I froze. His eyes locked on mine, cold and calculating. Without saying a word, he nudged the other guy, and they both started walking toward me. My brain screamed at me to move, and I bolted out the door. I could hear footsteps pounding behind me, closing in. I ducked into an alley, heart hammering, and hid behind a dumpster until their footsteps faded. I should have just gone to work and forgotten about it, but instead I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I told the dispatcher everything I saw, and within minutes, 2 patrol cars were on the scene. But when they went inside the store, the men were gone, and so was the bag. That night, as I replayed everything in my head, I started to notice small details I hadn't before. The logo on the duffel bag wasn't just any bag. It belonged to a high-end security transport company, and there had been a faint glint inside the bag, like polished metal or jewels. 2 days later, I got a call from Detective Ramirez. He wanted me to come down to the station. When I arrived, he slid a photograph across the table, 2 grainy surveillance shots of the men I'd seen. "Do you know who these guys are?" he asked. I shook my head, but my stomach tightened when he told me they were wanted in connection with a string of high-profile jewelry heists across 3 states. The detective leaned in, lowering his voice. "Daniel, they know you saw them. We think they might try to find you." I laughed nervously, but the way he said it, it wasn't a joke. And that was the moment I realized my life had just been pulled into something far bigger and far more dangerous than I could have imagined. Detective Ramirez insisted I let the police put me under protective observation. I thought it was overkill until 2 nights later, when someone tried to break into my apartment. The lock was scratched, and the frame had fresh pry marks. Whoever it was didn't get in, but the message was clear: they knew where I lived. Ramirez arranged for me to stay at a safe house on the outskirts of town. It was a small cabin owned by the department, with 1 door, 1 window, and a back exit leading straight into thick woods. The first night there, I barely slept. The sound of every creak and groan in the cabin amplified in the silence. The next morning, Ramirez showed up with more questions. "Daniel," he said, "there's something about the bag you saw. We've been tracking a shipment that went missing from a secured transport vehicle last month. Gold bars worth over $12 million. I felt my mouth go dry. "You think that was what I saw?" He nodded. "And those 2 men? They're not just thieves. They work for someone bigger, someone we've been after for years. We think they were using the abandoned store as a drop-off point." The more Ramirez explained, the more it sounded like I'd stumbled into the center of a criminal operation. Worse, the gang was smart. No social media, no traceable bank accounts, everything done face-to-face, cash only. That night, just after midnight, I heard a faint crunching on the gravel outside the cabin. My heart spiked. I peeked out the window and saw a figure moving toward the door, slow and deliberate. Before I could react, there was a knock. Not loud, but firm. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Ramirez. "Do not open the door. SWAT en route." I backed away from the door, but the figure must have heard my movement. The knocking stopped. Then, a low voice through the door. "We know what you saw. We just want to talk." I didn't answer. Moments later, Headlights flashed across the room as several vehicles pulled up. I heard shouting, boots pounding the ground, and then the chaos of an arrest in progress. When Ramirez came inside, he was pale. That wasn't one of the two men from before. That was someone higher up, someone we've never seen in person before tonight. Daniel, you've just helped us crack this thing wide open. But the investigation was far from over. The two men with the duffel bag were still missing. And somewhere out there, 12 million in gold was waiting to be found. The man arrested outside the cabin refused to talk, but his phone was a treasure trove. Encrypted messages, coded contact lists, and GPS logs that led to several storage units across the state. The task force split into teams, hitting them all at once. Ramirez asked me to ride along, in case my memory could help identify anything. Our team drove 2 hours to a rundown facility just outside Eugene. The unit we were assigned to was padlocked with a heavy chain. When the bolt cutters finally snapped it, the door rolled up to reveal nothing but a dusty mattress and a few empty crates. I could see the disappointment on everyone's faces, but something felt off. The crates were too new compared to the rest of the junk, and they had faint scrape marks on the floor. I pointed it out, and one officer pushed them aside, revealing a trap door beneath. Inside the hidden compartment were 3 duffel bags, identical to the one I'd seen. The first bag held nothing but packing foam and bubble wrap. The second, sealed with a plastic zip tie, was filled with gold bars, each stamped and numbered. The third bag made Ramirez's face go stone cold. Inside was a stack of passports, driver's licenses, and birth certificates, dozens of identities. Among them were documents with my name and photo, but with different personal details. They'd prepared to erase me completely if things had gone differently that night. With the gold recovered and the fake IDs in evidence, the case built itself. The 2 original men were caught a week later trying to cross into Canada. Turns out, they were brothers who'd been working jobs for the same crime syndicate since their teens. The trial was long and ugly, but in the end, the ringleaders went down. I testified twice, each time under heavy security. When the verdict finally came in guilty on all counts, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. Ramirez shook my hand on the courthouse steps. You didn't just witness a crime, Daniel. You helped take down one of the biggest heist networks in the country. I walked away that day with a strange mix of relief and unease. I still think about the moment outside that abandoned jewelry store. How easily I could have kept walking, but I didn't. And that one choice changed my life and took a criminal empire apart, piece by piece.